Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Are we squared? We're a bit squared. We're good, right? We're good. Nobody's going to have terrible OCD reactions to the. I'm a little bit off, right? I'm a little bit off. Sorry about that, everybody. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Feels like it's more than Tuesday. I feel like I've lived a million lives so far this week, and we are only at Tuesday. Isn't that funny? What's that great show that's out right now with Steve Martin and Martin Short? Only Murders in the Building. Have you seen that? That beautiful scene where Martin Short keeps having this moment, like a metaphoric moment, where he's climbing stairs in his mind and he falls off, bounces off a trampoline and lands on the stair again, almost like a second chance, right? He has, and I forget what piece of music, a very famous piece of classical music plays in his head when he does this, but he keeps falling backward off the step and bouncing back at different points during the series. I highly recommend that series. It is fantastic. I feel like I keep falling off the step and not quite bouncing back on these days, but that is okay. Lisa, I like that coffee cup. Happy Tuesday. Good to see you. Kirsten, happy Tuesday. Good to see you. Color is at its peak in Vermont, which is great because I'm headed to Vermont on Friday to teach class in Waitsville outside Montpelier on Saturday this coming weekend. So yes, finally I timed it right. It's been since the tour years, like 12, 15 years ago. Then the bus would wind its way through, and people would always be hoping that the week that they were on the bus tour through all 6 of the New England states was the week that the foliage was best. And it typically was the last week of September, first week of October. So it just goes to show it's a little bit further back this year because historically that was it. Somebody doing something with a machine out there. I wonder what that's about. Catherine, great to see you in snowy Idaho. Oh my word, really? Oh wow, already. Oh my gosh. And on the contrary, Joy says, hello in sunny Florida with shades on. Man, it's going to be a mixed bag. These are going to be mixed bag times right through the winter. Isn't it true? Penny, happy clouds, cloudy days, such nice temps. We're all getting a different bag. Linda's got it sunny and fallish. Hello, Robin. Good to see you. Crystal, good to see you. I finally have a hard copy of your magazine, and I've got to distribute the ones that Barbara sent me, too. Picking away at leftover Thanksgiving ham. Oh, I forgot that. Oh, you've got nice leftovers, right? Isn't that one of the best parts of Thanksgiving? I always wonder what other people cook, because we have, ever since we used to go out for Thanksgiving, and that's, it's coming up in the U.S. for us next month. But we used to go out and stay at this wonderful place called the Colonial Inn in Concord, Massachusetts, outside Boston. And that is where the famous sort of cradle of American literature happened, where the transcendentalists lived. Alcott, Hawthorne, Thoreau, Emerson. I mean, it was just like unbelievable collection of people at the same time. But also that's where the shot heard around the world happened and the American Revolution started, my favorite part of American history. We always used to go there when we were young and have dinner cooked for us there, and that was so nice. But times change, and of course my dad passed away, so it was no fun to do that anymore. And then I had kids, and they can't sit at the table and be normal, so that's out of the question. It's just too stressful. And they even changed the wallpaper in the dining room, which was the most lush sort of grape, like dark green leaves and these real Concord grapes, right? I just got it. Concord grapes are from Concord, Massachusetts. Sort of Bacchus themed, like just lush food, harvesty. It was so nice. And I noticed this past year when we now go the first week of December, because the stores have just switched over, very quaint Main Street. In fact, the Main Street of Concord, total tangent, is where the opening for Murder, She Wrote is shot in Concord, Mass. It's not Maine at all, it's Concord, Mass. I think I've said that before, but I was amazed to notice that one day when I was watching. But all of their quaint stores decorate on Thanksgiving night, and then it's nice to go the next week because then there's not those sad associations and overtones of people who aren't there. But I noticed last year even the wallpaper was gone, and I thought, what does it mean? Good thing I have photos of it because I'm going to use it in a composition, hopefully sooner rather than later, because it was so beautiful and charming. All good things about Thanksgiving, right? I'm always curious about what other people are eating besides turkey, because I know a lot of people have bouillabaisse, ham. I mean, I guess turkey is it, though, isn't it? I would feel very jilted if I wasn't fed really delicious turkey stuffing, true cranberry sauce, although I loved the canned slices too. All of that garbage, and then, like, pumpkin pie and pecan pie, obviously. And then obviously rum with sugar around the ring of the cup and all of that stuff. You got to be civilized, right? Well, I am jealous of your Thanksgiving, and I'm looking forward to ours. It seems like it's a long way off, though. I hope that you're wearing stretchy pants, and I hope you don't regret anything that you ate, at least. Oh, dear. Mom, you are on this morning. It is good to be with you. I've been so crazy. I haven't even called for the last couple of days. I feel bad. Doreen, hello in sunny upstate New York. April, good to see you. Dave, good to see you. Donna, good to see you. Oh, is that where the snow went, Donna? Oh, no. Over to Catherine. Oh, man. Kathy, hello, Kathy. How are you? Good to see you. Barbara, good morning. Happy post-Thanksgiving. I love I just love seeing the chats. Happy to Web Knob. Happy Tuesday in Colorado. Happy Tuesday back to you. Vacuum broke. Uh-oh. Is that a metaphor? Vacuum broke? Wow, I guess you can't do any work today. You're going to have to maybe sit on your butt and work on some fun projects instead. Wah, wah. Hate it when that happens, huh? Carol, good to see you. Coffee Timers. Carrie, good to see you. Janice, good morning. Good to see you. Getting snow in Colorado, too. Oh, see, this is making me feel a little bit nervous now. Things are the pendulum is swinging a little bit too fast for me. Kira, good morning. Good to see you. You aren't late. I'm just running my mouth, so you are perfectly on time. Beverly, good morning. Good to see you. Thank you for those great photos yesterday. Beverly sent some great photos, including one of these days, I'm working on this book project, and there are some very scary big deadlines coming up, so I'm a bit stressed. Today started at 4 for me. I was sitting downstairs at 4 working because, when you wake up in the middle of the night and that's when you have those really big thoughts and there's nothing you can do about it. And if you try to go back to sleep, as you know, you might be lucky and fall back to sleep 3 hours later, but it won't be good sleep. And then you'll dream like that you're waitressing and you forgot to put the order in, or something's on fire, or you're trapped in the trunk of a car, or who knows, but it's never good, is it? So it's almost not worth it. And I'm learning the older I get, when you wake up and you are wide awake and you start thinking, I have this to do, I have that to do, and also this, and also this. God, I hope I don't have cancer. I wonder if I'll die young. And then you go, it's time to get out of bed, isn't it? It's definitely time to get out of bed. Early or not. Anita, good afternoon. Muggy day in London, Ontario. What a mixed bag. So yeah, I'm a bit hyped up because it's almost evening for me. I'm ready for like a cocktail at this point. Beautiful day here. What did I want to tell you? Let's get some business stuff out of the way. Oh, I have to put another teaching date on the calendar. I can't remember it. I can't find my phone right now. But Plymouth, Massachusetts, another great historic town. It's a November date. Kira, if you remember it, can you tell me or put it in the thread? It's going to be that class, Designing with Cookie Cutters. Did I have a couple of cookie cutters here? I have so many of those big old copper cutters, like these guys. I have tons of them, but I can't stand the sound they make when they touch each other. We're going to be designing with these, all kinds of compositions. So it's going to be a part, this class will be, I think it's 3 hours, and it's going to be, I'm going to let people work on composition and design and sort of aid in that part of it for as long as each person wants. And then as soon as we start switching over to rug hooking, then I'll be very hands-on with beginners who are learning to rug hook, got their brights in their lights, dark lights, dull brights. I almost said something bad. All out there. So that'll be a very hands-on class, but also very fun and relaxed, a very organic class with the possibility of feeling festive depending on the cookie cutter you chose. Of course, a cat, and I know a bunch of you are cat people on, a cat is festive all the time, right? November 21st, 1 to 4. Perfect, thank you. Martha, good to see you. Oh, 4 a.m. epiphanies, Mom, right? Most profound. The big ones are at 4 a.m. That is not the time to be up, is it? Unless your occupation requires you to be somewhere at that time. So Plymouth class is coming up this weekend, Vermont. Next weekend, Cape Cod. And then we'll see. And then I have on the I have on the calendar the Proddy. Don't even know where that is. The Pilgrim Hat Proddy. It's coming up in November, but a few days, I think it's October 28th. I wanted to do something right before Halloween for the people who, like me, I like to hook the thing on the day. Right after the day, cat coming out of the litter box. I am out of there. You're just seeing the back of me. But right leading up to the day, for example, with Halloween, I like to be hooking something Halloween on Halloween week. Not in September. So for people who have the same thing in that regard, the sugar pumpkins that I just taught in person, I think this one is Hate Ashbury. I've got 9 of them to choose from. This is definitely Kiss of the Spider Woman. Remember this with the glitter sides on it. This one I have hanging on the wall right through the year, and this one I have framed up in a nice old frame that I liked. Didn't want to part with. I think that's Days of Wine and Roses. But they all come out different, and everybody's pack is different. So if you sign up for that class, your class comes with wool strips, a bunch of different wool strips, tons of crazy novelty yarns, and then a bag of different colored yarns, different for each person. So everybody gets these 2 things plus the pattern that you chose, and that's something that we'll do together over Zoom. So if that's interesting, that should be, I think that's on the website now, and I want to get those kits out. Penny Cat. Oh, just catching up on, beautiful colors, huh? I can't wait to see. I can't wait. I'm so excited. There's so many projects I want to share with you, and it's really killing me. I feel like, I'm that person that can barely keep the gift that is wrapped up, like, inside my mouth while someone's opening it. I find it very hard to keep those kinds of secrets. I have some new projects I'm working on that I think are so great, but I can't show you because they're book projects. And there are exclusive patterns that will be in the book. So just know that while I seem like a dirty little pig who's never working anymore, putting new patterns out, I am working like crazy. And you will see all the fruits of that. You'll see all of that stuff next August when the book comes out. I know that's a long time. But as soon as I finish working on it, we'll have a lot more time together again. Is it online? Yeah, it's online, Kara. It's a Zoom class. It's a Zoom class. Maybe you can check the calendar. I have no idea where I put my phone, and I just dropped the car off at the dealer because it was making a funny noise. So I'm hoping it's not in there. But if anybody knows the date, please post it so that everybody can find out. Got the devil behind me still, right? In more ways than one. So, yesterday we left off talking about Bernat, because I made that great find while I was at, of all places, Savers. I'm always talking garbage about Savers these days. But I found these 2 Bernat books, and we glanced at one yesterday together, because the thing that really struck me is that at this moment in time, Bernat was really moving toward mid-century modern. And, coming from a place where everybody is doing the very traditional patterns, and remember, they had their Nova Scotia, it's quite traditional, this one here, and there are some traditional ones in there, the trads. Thank you, Kara. Thursday, October 28th, because anything further on than that, and I'm just up to my armpits getting the kids ready. Side note, this is the first year since I've had kids, and they were babies, right? I dressed Joss up as Frida Kahlo once and Teddy up as Dolly, but since they've been old enough to speak and object, I haven't been able to use that excellent and useful degree in costume construction that I have. So this is the time of year for it, and I never have any takers. Teddy was a ghost for like 4 years in a row after that, and there's no talking him out of it. This is the first year that he's doing like the Scream costume, so not so much. But Joss has decided to use the devil face, the metallic red devil face that Teddy found, that I found at the antique store this weekend. And she wants to wear this very elaborate black dress that is a bit distressed and sort of decomposed. So I'm kind of excited. Last thing I need is another project at this moment, but I'm kind of excited, and all those old costume making juices from working in the theater for so long are starting to come back like big time. I even ordered myself a Medusa headpiece, and I'm piecing together this is not a good use of time. But fun times coming. So Halloween, that class is 3 days before, on the 28th. That'll be the last day that I think I'm really emotionally available until we're past Halloween at that point. It'll be a fun class. I'm going to pour all my spookiness into that class and all of my help that I can possibly give you. So the thing about this move that Bernat was making was it wasn't an across-the-board move. I mean, it wasn't. They were running very contrary to what other manufacturers like them, like Aunt Lydia, were doing at the time. They were sticking pretty traditional, and Bernat was going more in the direction of what fine art was doing, the turn that fine art and architecture was taking. They were moving squarely into the arena of that sort of atomic-looking mid-century modern look that is so desirable and iconic now that we have a name for it decades later. And it is so interesting to watch this kind of evolution. So I wanted to look a little more closely with you today at this sort of marketing stuff that they put out in 1953, because I'm looking for, I'm aware of, from a business point of view, they want to juggle and straddle many lines because they want all of those customers. And in one regard, you would think, like we said yesterday, this one looks like a pretty kitty composition, but it really is leaning toward mid-century with the almost repeated, very flat, almost cookie cutter type pattern. The colors, the flatness of it, it's got a graphic quality that is much more Art Deco mid-century than it is, for example, cute Victorian postcard. So this is not going to be the same customer as this, is it? I mean, this is heading a bit more mid-century, and then even more, right? The very sort of bold ones. So they are trying to appeal to a number of customers with these rug making kits. And if you weren't tuned in yesterday, they are marketing them by calling them no frame rugs. And what they are latch hook rugs. So they're not like pulling the wool over anybody's eyes, no pun intended, because this is acrylic, but they are, they're trying to promote the kind of rug making, being aware of the culture of people visiting with each other often and having hook-ins, being a very mainstream thing at this point. They're trying to appeal to those people by giving them a product that they can take on their lap, and there's no need for a frame or a conversation about a frame. It's not even a thought. It also eliminates an expensive piece of equipment for people who are, they're sort of like lower working middle class customer base, right? Not maybe the leisurely housewives who are at home, with things that are a little bit less expensive and you don't need quite as much equipment. They can appeal to people who have a little less money to fool around with hobbies, right? And that's a whole huge pocket of people at this point, bouncing back from 2 wars, right? So I want to look at some of these designs, and I just want to preface by saying, doing befores and afters, we are going to look at some traditional designs just for contrast today. But when you think about it, I just want to define mid-century modern, and I know you know what it is, and I know you know what it looks like, but I just want to define it in a nutshell by saying, let's just think about it in this today while we're talking as being the pendulum swing away from the fussiness of Victorian decoration and design, right? Victorian houses, Victorian clothing, Victorian decoration, Victorian accessories, wallpaper, frames, furniture, everything was fussy, wasn't it? And the pendulum swung very, very far away from that. 2 wars happened in the interim, of course, that is a big factor. But when the pendulum swings, we get like the Art Deco period, which is very bare, very graphic and very bare, going into the 1930s, because mid-century is really defined as the 1930s to the 1960s. That's like the general bookend, right? And I would even say it's more narrow personally. I think it's more like 1940s to late 1950s personally, but it's a moving target, so you can choose your years. But it's so interesting to think of the way the pendulum swung so wildly and so far at that moment in time. And we went from even the Art Deco / 1920s sort of Art Nouveau into Art Deco, very, very graphic driven, no shading, not realism. We moved into that period very quickly, and right on the heels of that period came the mid-century period. And I think when we think about it, when we look at the images we're about to look at, I think it's important to make a really overarching point. And this is an opinion, right? So feel free to object. I love to be wrong, and I love to find out new things. But I feel like one of the reasons that Art Deco looks as simple and as graphic as it is, it looks very different than the mid-century movement, because I think of architecture and decoration. And not that I mean, everything was running parallel in terms of design, but if you think about the new products that were available in terms of building furniture at this time, we are looking at New materials like what we now call bent wood was plywood, but it bent. Fiberglass and all these high-tech foams, aluminum, which wasn't brand new, plastic, and all kinds of new laminates, and of course steel. And all of these things are malleable. So we are seeing a sudden shift in interior decoration, and with all of these new products that are very malleable, we get a lot of curves. And that really is the signature thing about mid-century modern, isn't it? Because you even look at the TV set, and it has that sort of, the TV set sort of motif, or a real TV set, that very round inset, right? You're not getting a box within a box with mid-century design. When you think about the legs on mid-century chairs or the shapes of the cushions, they are round, they are often asymmetrical, they're going toward a very abstract shape that is round, right? It's not geometric. And a little bit earlier, more like the 20s and 30s, we were looking at more purely geometric shapes. So I think just to file that sort of idea, when we get into this era of design, we are looking at curves, and we're looking for curves. Your age is a moving target. Oh God, I hear you. I'm turning 50. I'm turning 50 in February, blocking it out. And I said to my mother the other day, I am danged if I am not in Las Vegas, which I've never personally wanted to go to in my life, to be with Barry Manilow, watching him perform on my birthday. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. I can't smile without him. Being very naughty today. So let's look at some of these designs. And again, I'm going to show you the new and the old, right? Because the best way to look at something with a critic's eye is to compare and contrast. So, for example, let's look at some of these. I'm just going to show you color ones because there's plenty of color ones. Let's look at some of these. Let's start with this Alhambra. So again, these are latch designs, and they are extremely hard to find on eBay. Some of them you see, but the ones that we're looking at with this eye of like looking for this break from traditional past and into mid-century design, those are very hard to find. And of course they would be, because it's so popular. Mid-century design is popular, and it's very popular right now to cross, handcrafts and very simple, clean lines. And that is like, that's the backbone of mid-century modern, isn't it? My mom says, you can't possibly be turning 50. I'm 50. I'm afraid not. You're still 32 to me. That was the first time I remember being able to say how old you are. You were 32, so you're still 32. I'm the one who's turning 50. We've changed roles over the years. So this is Alhambra here. And again, we are in the post Helen Albee era as well. Oh, that was good. Very dark in here. So, very graphic. And also think back to Alice Butler. We're going to see a lot more on Alice Butler. But isn't this, very simple squiggle design, very 1950s, right? It almost feels like a vase, or one of those Dutch vases, like the bulb vases with all the, little compartments on the sides. But those little blue squares, right? That, if somebody said to me that's an Alice Butler, I would say, of course it is, which would really mean a Vic, right? But this kind of design, this is right here in the middle, I think, dogwood. It's not, I don't want to say corny, I did, but I don't mean corny, I mean traditional. It's not a very traditional floral like Nova Scotia is. This is heading toward more like textile design, right? Like a fabric print or a wallpaper print. And then this one, oh, that's Alhambra. So what was that? That was Sorrento. You can see, I'll put them together. Quite similar colors. So you're getting a feel for what colors are in right now. Well, pretty sterile colors, right? That was part of it too. They went full blast with the sort of bare, basic, streamlined look. And that also went to colors, right? They went very strong into primary colors and white. And that was really the first time in design history that white is considered a stylish color. Up to then, imagine the Victorians using white. We have a lot of beautiful Victorian houses that are painted white now, but back in the day, the Victorian palette was wild and crazy. And the early Victorian palette was wild and crazy, right? Unless you had a house like, Jane Austen, Georgian style 1820s, that was probably brick or some kind of a white stone, people were still painting in very bright, bold colors. And we don't think of it because it's the past. And we think of the past in black and white. Well, the past wasn't black and white. The 1950s brought the color white right to the front as a design idea. And then lots of things became white. So let's see, what's this one? Arapaho. Oh, this one's mosaic. First, this one's mosaic. And again, this is obviously the post-Helen Albee stage because that was 50 years earlier. And we are still looking at pulling from Native American, and I would say also South American motifs. Ribbonelle. We're coming up with some very fancy sort of Italian-sounding names too. This is called Ribbonelle. This looks like such a 70s composition, I think because of the palette. So, I mean, this is, if you saw this out of context, if this was on one of these, Create or Decorating Magazine's 1975, you would accept that as perfectly viable. But this is 1953. That is a very ahead of its time looking rug. And this one too, flagstones, just like the dogwood, we're looking at something that looks more like a textile design than a rug design. And that means that we are now at this moment in time making a break from the traditional to this. Because somebody somewhere is saying, and it's going to be fine artists, right? Because we've covered this conversation in past episodes when we looked at mid-century and the fine artists who are quite well known who did cross over to rug design. So that conversation is well documented, and it's right at this time period. But, at this point, someone, being the powers that be, being the artists with a capital A, those people decided, what is the difference between, for example, my curtain and the floor, the window and the floor? What is the difference? Well, I mean, obviously there are some physical differences that you can't ignore, but in terms of decoration, does a curtain pattern belong on the floor? And I suppose why not, right? We're kind of reversing the bed rug, aren't we? Because hooked bed rugs went from the floor to the bed. We're kind of bringing textiles like bed covers and that kind of very graphic repeat floral and putting it back down on the floor. So again, pendulum swinging wildly. You come to Vegas with me, Jennifer? Are you good for Barry Manilow, though? He better take me on stage this time or I'm going to have a breakdown. I'm telling you, all of these times I've went to see him in concert and I'm always in the back and my hand is always up and he never picks me. I hope this is the time that he picks me. I want to go up and sing with him. Carol, good to see you. Carrie says, I like mid-century modern aesthetic. It is a great move. It was a great movement. It was a great sort of intellectual movement too. And it crosses over into everything, doesn't it? I mean, you could put elements of mid-century design into any home of any style, and they're going to look beautiful because the design was very strong, it was very focused, it was very cohesive, it was very unified, right? And you didn't get that with the Victorian period, right? So the parents or grandparents of the people, imagine being living in the mid-century atomic age and your grandparents had a Victorian house with all of that crazy fussiness. You would have known both worlds, right? And there would have been a lot in between. Most of life would have fallen in between. But interesting to think of, right? Because it's a huge pendulum swing. Now, even more so, Arapaho, this one here, very nice. And I'm looking at the colors too. That's why I'm only showing you the ones that are in color. I'm going to run over a little bit because I was running my mouth. And this one's called Shadows. Who's a Barry Manilow fan? Kathleen. Oh man, I can't get enough of him. I really can't. I just love him so much, and I hate to say it, it's like true of all of us. He's not getting any younger, is he? So I feel like it might be a good time to strike that iron. I love that Shadows. I mean, if that isn't, I mean, that is so definitive, isn't it? And again, simple primary colors. So it's funny how with some of their stuff, the stuff that they sort of deem as being Native American or their more ethnic offerings are done in more earthy colors, and they're crossing over to a few primaries, but they're really sticking to earthy. But on their designs that they're saying like recently designed by award-winning artists, that kind of marketing, they're not telling us who the artists are. And I haven't done a ton of research, but I have done a ton of research into fine artists who designed rugs in the mid-century. And I haven't yet found anybody who designed for Bernat. So I'm not sure who these artists are. Could be a Betty Crocker situation where it's nobody, it's somebody who's been there all along. But regardless, whoever started this line, this contemporary line, made a real departure, and it really is a moment in rug history. So this book itself, the No Frame book, many chapters, lots of information. The main thing is that they're trying to promote this as being the no frame rug. they're not exactly telling you that you're using a different tool than a hook because you're using a cross hook, latch hook. And they're also saying like cross-stitch rugs. They're also referring to them as cross-stitch rugs. And the reason they're doing that is because in some of the kits, they're showing you a pattern that resembles cross-stitch. So you're not actually making them with a needle or using a cross-stitch pattern. That's not a good example, actually. They're showing you how to latch. I'll show you an example. I know there's one in this book, unless I dreamed it. But you know, they're giving you a lot of information in here. They're very good with marketing, I have to say. Here we go. We commissioned new designs for living rooms, dining rooms, cozy fireplace rooms. Does anybody have a cozy fireplace room? Maybe the Brady's did. I would love to have a cozy fireplace room. That sounds very chazella and cozy. Entrance halls, intimate corners, sunrooms. We asked for pretty, happy designs for children's rooms and playrooms, and for charming picture book designs to match the spirit of the early American. Interesting. So that's kind of their mission statement way at the beginning of the book. And then this book, it's a good-sized catalog. I didn't see this exact one, Bernat Rug Manual, on eBay, but it might be there. I didn't look long. Showing a lot of the traditional rugs first. So it's almost like they're going to bring us through the chronology of what they've got. So there's not a lot. It's a bit like throw a dog a bone. These earlier patterns, they are just what you would expect. And then I'm going to show you again when we get into, suddenly we're at matchsticks. We saw matchsticks yesterday. We went from this, okay, to this on the next page. Now, token farm scene, right? That's in color here. And we've got a nice dog. That does read to me more like 1940s style than earlier. That is still a bit of the old school. And then I think this is where the moment happens. Matchsticks on top. And this bottom one is called, can't see it, foliage. Sorry about the jumping around. So, I mean, just very different. It's almost like looking at these two modern rugs here. You know, it's almost like you can picture an Eames-style table or chair sitting on it, right? Because there is a lot of dead space, and they're very theatrical instead of pictorial, right? Compared to what we've seen before. And again, that's that crossover, that reaching for more of a textile design, an oversized textile design, right? That's going to be the difference, because the scale of the thing has changed too. We've moved from doing very small prints, repeats of small little rosette flowers and carnations, to doing oversized flowers that are so big they're cropped out of the composition. So I think that is super interesting. This one is just, they've got kind of an Eastern one here, but this one is just crazy. This is called Transparencies. And this looks to me a little bit like I'm seeing a little bit of a bird or an eagle in there, cropped, right? So it becomes an abstract. If it were 1 inch higher, the top, it looks like it would be a full blast bird. But because the top is cropped, this can also pass as very abstract. It looks like there's a sword there too. So maybe this reads as a patriotic rug. Maybe I didn't get enough sleep. But, you know, this composition is extremely different. I was going to say odd, and it is odd, but it is extremely different. I would go for that. Until I held it up to show you, I couldn't tell that that was a bird's head, right? It's that sort of embedded. Let me show you some more interesting ones. This one's kind of nice. I think this one's on the cover too. Yeah, the giraffe. Yeah, I'll show you the color version of giraffe. Because again, looking at those sweeps, right? We've got the multiples, 2, not 1, but 2. And they want to keep a very limited palette going, so they just kind of flip or reverse the colors in the back. And instead of keeping the giraffes very, very rigid, you know, they gave them that mid-century curve, a bit of a sweep to them, a bit of a sweep down their backside, a bit of a curve to the leg. It is the thing that your eye reads as mid-century design. And then in the background, in great contrast, they put a very irregular spiky tree that is just there, almost like a blot of paint, that is just there to balance the dark giraffe that's in the background. Smart. Oh, look at this. I'm going to show you these two, Stylized Tulip and Empire Leaf. So the top one is called Stylized Tulip. Now, how wackety stacko is that? This is something, you know, if ever you're feeling you've got a piece of whatever, burlap, linen, monk's cloth, whatever, dish towel, right, Dave? And you know, you feel like, oh, I don't dare put the Sharpie to it. I don't dare design. Well, think about this and just do it. Fold your paper in half. This is almost like ink blot style of designing, right? Doesn't it almost look like the paper was folded in half the crossways, the horizontal way? Remember the ink blot thing that people would do at school or at psychiatry, where you fold your paper and whatever the ink blot is, almost like tea leaves, you would try to read it or make some sense out of it, or sort of transpose whatever you want it to be that very thing, and then have a good afternoon. It's that kind of idea, isn't it? The ink blot style of design. And this one here, Empire, that really is, that's a real architectural grab, isn't it? That really is showing us that sort of 1820s Greek Revival design. Just some pieces of it, keeping it very bare and basic. That nice laurel, looks like a laurel wreath in the middle, and what look like architectural sort of pediments or moldings in the four corners. As a design, if I were to see somebody draw this out, or if I were to be drawing this out myself, I would be very tempted to go back in and add some more stuff. But the fact that that stuff isn't there, I think makes it a good, strong design. In my mind, it's still a bit irregular. I would like to see some of those empty spaces filled, but that's just personal taste. That's not weakness in design. That's just personal taste. Super interesting. Now look at this one, third dimension and ferns. Hello, Denise. Good to see you. So here is third dimension. Very, you know, shades of future video games. It looks like cubit, doesn't it? Very low cubit. It looks to me almost like a lawn, like, you know, the style of fence called the ha-ha. George Washington was actually the first person to make a ha-ha. It's a kind of a, I think it's like a cow fence, that your land goes out and then it drops down. So there's animals down there, but because the land goes up so steeply, like almost like a miniature little cliff, animals can't get out. It looks a bit like that, and a bit like Cubit, the video game. And then this one, ferns. Now again, this is another great example of a floral that has been super stylized. And not only has it been stylized, it's been given an orientation, right? It goes, this is right side up. And if you have it the other way, it might look a bit odd. Interesting, super interesting. I mean, at this point, I'm wondering how many people were putting these rugs on the floor. I'm sure many of them, right? But I'm wondering if people were also putting them on the wall. Because you do see in these decorating magazines, I'm thinking back to the decorating magazines we've looked at Coffee Time, you do see them up on the wall. And I wonder if that's for the photo shoot or if that was just routine life. People going, this is quite pretty, and it's also very white. I think I'm going to put it on the wall instead of the floor. Wonder, you know. These are nice ones too. African leaf and clown. Now, obviously, when they were saying that sort of laundry list at the beginning, African leaf here, how great is that? How that holds as a now design too, right? How IKEA would cry themselves to sleep every night if they knew that this was happening all those years ago, right? And this is clown. So that laundry list at the beginning when they were saying for your sunroom, for your fireplace room, for your kids' room, you know, for the playroom, this is that. But look at how balanced it is now. We don't have a straight pictorial that looks like a scene from the circus. We have two clowns that are like jumping willy-nilly and two seals that I think are really anchoring the composition. Black noses to gray spot, right, and black spots on the center sphere heading out to the clowns, perfect balance. But the fact that the seals are balanced the way that they are, that very strong diagonal line, is giving this almost a Z composition. Your eye going clown to seal to seal to clown, if you see what I mean. It's very strong composition, very mid-century composition. There's no confusing that for a 1920s design or a 1930s design. Angelfish is another one. I mean, this is so 1980s that it's just crazy. Isn't that fantastic? I mean, this is like Laurel Birch before Laurel Birch and fishes instead of cats. using these blocks, almost like wood blocks or cutting boards, dropping creatures in at different angles, but they have things in common, right? They've got like bones in common. The big ones have bones in common. The small ones are just like almost raindrops. It's such a good composition. I wish that this one appeared in color, Angelfish. Man, if that popped up on eBay, I would be crying myself to sleep if I missed that. That is a good composition. I would love to do that. Let's see if there's any more that are noteworthy. Well, this is quite noteworthy. This is a good panorama. Aztec, this one is called. And then there you see it placed on the floor. This could be any house, any day, right now. And again, the simpleness. This one, this composition and the colors that they've chosen for this kit does really balance that sort of the ethnic thrust that they like to do with the sort of earthy colors with the very white, light, bright mid-century modern. This has got both. So this would have, I would think at the time, appeal to a lot of people. The blocks for me are so big they wouldn't appeal at all at any time. There's not enough fussiness for me. But luckily, I was not the target audience. And even going to bed, what was this one called? Rose stepping. Even going to bed, they were showing this in context. It is a floral rug, but you can see that they're going quite bare, right? Minimalist, quite bare. They're giving you one little rose in the bedroom, very cozy. You step over the rose stepping rug, as it's called. And your sort of last visual before collapsing into bed is kind of old-fashioned and quaint, that one big fat rose. It is beautiful, isn't it, Kathleen? And now this is the pattern chart. They had different flowers, jonquil stepping, poppy stepping, chrysanthemum stepping, and they're giving you the option of a chart like this, so that, I mean, there's very little to know. It's the rest of it's white, right? It's just the flower that you're fleshing out. But they're charting it in a way that's similar to cross stitch, so they're able to use the word cross stitch and rug hooking and hooked rug in all of their marketing materials with this stuff, because you are still making a rug with a hook, so you're still hooking a rug, and you're using a charted cross stitch style pattern that people would have been familiar with, so they can also say cross stitch. So those two things are going to help to build a bridge for people who are already crafty and handy, but they don't know about this kind of no-frame rug hooking, and they're going to go, well, I'm very familiar with those two things. Surely I'm going to get it. And, of course, it was super popular, and they did get it. So just an interesting catalog. The whole second half of the book is charted designs of the pictures we've been looking at. But this really blew me away. I just found this really interesting. You know, just context interesting. And then it goes on to say how to design your own no-frame rug. So they were obviously selling just the latch backing, the canvas part. How to make larger no-frame rugs. And then they give great charts like this. This would be so bewildering to people now. We've gotten so far away from being competent with this kind of visual aid, because it's showing you colors, right? And it's showing you pattern numbers and color suggestions. So down this side, it's pattern number 3353, and then you go across, and what do you want? Color 3115 or 3106, and you know it tells you with these huge charts that often fold out what colors might work, color suggestions, because they don't all come kitted, right? It's possible to buy the wool the way that however you want. They're also making this thing, the Bernat rug cutter. If you've seen that, that's definitely on eBay. It's a little thing that cuts your wool. I'm going to order one, and I'm going to show it just to see if you like it. I've been worried to order one. They're not expensive, but I'm just wondering if the thing still cuts and how you sharpen it. I can't tell by looking at it. It looks like a piece of a pencil sharpener, old school, but it's not clear at all how it cuts. You know, and I'm wondering if the blade is going to be dull and it's just going to be an exercise in frustration and waste. But I think I'll order one anyway, because it'd be fun for us to check that out. I'm much more in the habit of using a piece of cardboard and wrapping and cutting that way. But using that little Bernat cutting machine, which is prominently displayed here, they're not mentioning it because they sell rug wool too, right? The kits are just part of their business. They sell wool that they market as rug wool. And in theory, you could pick your own colors, look at the charted pattern, get the cutter, and you'd be in business right like there, right? I mean, you wouldn't need no frame, just the hook. It'd be great. Does the style of design translate well to rug hooking? Well, you know, it's an opinion. So I would say for me, the style of the mid-century rugs, the very sort of geometric ones that we have, right, that are less linear than they are curvy and abstract, for me, those translate very well to latch because the nature of latch is going to make it so pixelated and so fuzzy, right? Like the station's not quite coming in and you can't get the static to settle down. So for me, when I see examples of these mid-century rugs done up the way they are, I think that's quite effective. That's a quite effective use of this medium. But I can't help but thinking, but they would look so much neater if they were done hooked or even clipped, right? Hooked and then clipped. But that's just, it's just I prefer a lower pile. So my opinion is not worth very much because I prefer a lower pile. I think of all of the types of designs to approach latch hook, the most effective are the ones that are simpler, very graphic, very simple. When I see a lot of shading in a latch kit, even if it's perfectly executed, like the one on the cover of the box, they still seem to me a bit out of focus somehow. And again, it's that I prefer a shorter pile medium in rug making or any textile. So me even voicing an opinion is like saying I like knitting more than crocheting, right? Or I like anything more than anything else. It's just an opinion, but yes, the straight answer is yes. These designs lend themselves very well to latch hooking. I would stay away from designs like this. Sorry, the farmhouse. I would stay away from designs like the clipper ship. It can work and it can look very pretty, but there is a lot lost with latch as a medium. So it's hard to say. If I were going to approach a new latch project, I think I would be looking for one of these very basic, simple, modernist style designs. Something very simple and color driven without too much of a sort of reach for shading. But but they do. And you can also just buy latch backing and go for it. So some of the designs that we saw, you can just put that down on the table, put something under it so you don't write on the table, of course, but just draw something right on it. You can do something geometric like that so easily, right? So interesting thought, something to think about. And hey, if you have a giant space under the coffee table or it's getting cold, you're tired of walking on the cold floor, it's only going to get colder. If you're thinking about doing a rug, it's not a bad idea to think about doing a rug with a high pile like a latch. It goes fairly fast. You can use your own wool. You can design your own canvas. You can choose just what you want in a custom size. You're just using the hook. If you're a beginner, you don't need any frame. You can just get going and get your hand acquainted with your brain again. Make sure that your brain is telling your hand how to hold the thing and pull the thing and they are talking again. Maybe it's been a while since you've done a craft that involves this kind of connection. For me it was. But it's a good time to think about it. Why not, right? And I keep getting emails about latch and I feel so bad because I was so hoping to put some latch, for example, Halloween kits out this year, and I have a lot of latch material, and I have 100 latch hooks at least, and I have a lot of designs in my head, but things kind of ramped up for me with Teddy's school and with a book deal, so I'm kind of like, just treading water right now, and I promise you next year I'm going to be so off my chain that you're going to have to send me to like Bedlam or somewhere to try to take me in hand. I'm going to be wild and crazy and energized again and have lots of new designs. And as soon as I can, I will put out a bunch of latch designs, and they will be heavy on the stylized side and not so realistic as some of the ones that they show that are earlier ones, like the Nova Scotia. So anyway, I'm going to be with you one more time this week. Tomorrow I will be on for coffee time, and then I'm going to be off. I have to work on Thursday, really, really head down to get the kits ready for teaching in Vermont on Saturday. I hope I will see you this weekend, but I know not everybody is a stone's throw from Montpelier, Vermont, Waitsville, Vermont. So I will be back with you tomorrow, and Oh, but to rug hooking. Yeah, Carrie, these designs are perfect for rug hooking because the thing about the thing in my mind about the mid-century modern, this I keep coming back to the idea of the curve because the curve is the prestige when we're talking about this style of design. So the thing about the curve is when the curve is done in latch, you really run the risk of it not being perfectly curved. I feel like you can control it a bit better with a shorter pile, but it's just my opinion, and I'm not the best hooker, latcher, anything. I'm sure everybody on this call is better than I am technically. So, it's up for grabs, but I feel like seeing the most important part of those design elements, it's important to get the lines right, because if you don't have the lines right in mid-century modern, it's going to be a foul, right? It's not going to pop the way that you want it to pop. So it can be tricky. It can be tricky. But these are simple designs. So if you're starting from scratch, just keep it simple, right? Just don't go too far at the beginning. Keep it simple and try to establish the baseline. And then you can really bust out and do stuff like matchsticks and some of the designs that had a lot more going on, lots of straight lines like the matchsticks with the big curve. And that would be so satisfying. Hey, if you're up for it, you should do it, right? You should just do it. If Matchsticks pops up on eBay, I'm getting it. Don't you get it? You let me get in there and get it. I check all the time. Unless you see it first and you really love it. So anyway, oh, you too, Denise. Tomorrow I will be back. I found this book last night while I was trying to get the kids to bed. Historic Houses and Interiors in Southern Connecticut. That's just where I live. It's an older book. I think this is another 1950s book, but you probably can't see it. But I went through it last night, and all of the pages that I dog-eared have hooked rugs in them. So I started my crazy internet search just for the 15 minutes I had while I was having coffee to see which of these houses are still there. So I want to start up this conversation tomorrow about local houses, looking at some of the rugs from older books like this, old coffee table books, trying to follow up and chase some of these rugs like a detective, figure out if they're still there, who has them, where they are. If they're not there, we need to set about copying them to save the patterns, right? Ralph Burnham style. As long as they're not copyrighted, we need to look into these lost rugs that we find pictured in old books that have been out of print for 50 years. So that'll be our episode for tomorrow. We're going to look at some of the rugs that were at one point in Southern Connecticut, and we'll see if we can go on some wild goose chases. Thumbs up. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carrie. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Until then, have a great day. See you in the morning.